Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
Patriots Unfiltered!
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium, and we got a lot to talk about. Not a lot of it's good. Yeah, but it's Evan, it's Paul, it's me, it's Deuce, it's Matt in the booth, and we are talking Patriots for the next 2 hours. We're going to get into it, starting with the game. Started okay, 10-0.
It might be the best start of a game that they've had in at least 2 seasons.
I mean, I was thinking to myself, "Whoa, this is another London game," you know? 45-7, 35-7
Yeah,
you know?
I didn't even think of that, but yeah.
But
it's like Pittsburgh last year. Didn't they go right down the field and score against Pittsburgh last year in that Thursday night game?
Yeah.
But that was
But it just collapsed. And
I have a confession, Freddie.
Yeah.
I was this close.
He's going to nod.
To the nod.
Couldn't do it.
Well, I was one defensive
You held
stop.
off, though.
I was one defensive stop away from the nod. I looked at Mike and I said, if they stop him again here, I think this game is over.
Yeah.
They didn't stop him.
But
They never stopped him again.
I mean, we're going to get into it, but I'm probably more concerned about – I'm concerned about the play on the field, particularly from the defense. But I'm probably more concerned about what's going on off the field than I am what's going on the field.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair point.
You know, but we'll get into it all. Opening thoughts, anyone? Those were mine.
I always like to defer to Evan because Mike and I do a 2-hour postgame show, which, by the way, did unbelievable ratings.
I
wonder
why.
I'm told, minus the interim host of the pre- and postgame show, we had Boffo ratings.
Yeah.
No, actually, Matt was, in all seriousness, I poke fun at No Socks all the time. He was tremendous on the pregame show, giving us a little flavor of London.
Yeah.
And all that. So
I think those kind of, especially the post-game show, elicits a visceral response, and people want that outlet.
Yep.
Well, it
So
was
they-
the highest. It was the highest since Mac hurt his foot coming off with the Ravens.
Yeah.
In that game, which was another one people
That's
felt like they wanted to come
with haste.
Yeah.
I got a score of 3.8.
Oh, Mike.
This is out of 22.
That was the scale. So Mike and I talked for 2 hours. We always like to let Evan go first on Tuesdays.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, I would just say first thought was I was writing game observations. I was writing my lead, and I wanted to say it in a nicer way. And then Jerod Mayo just came out and called them soft. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to quote the head coach here because that is to a T what a soft football team plays like. I'm not saying that the players themselves are soft.
They played soft.
But they played soft. You can't run the ball. You can't stop the run. You can't cover kicks. Like, those are the 3 boxes. And this is not a Jerod Mayo thing. This is actually a Bill Belichick thing. Like, this is a football tenant cliche type of thing. That if you can't do those 3 things, at least at a competitive level, that you're going to get blown out. And that's exactly what happened on Sunday, if you ask me. You know, they really did not control the line of scrimmage on either side of the football, and they got beat up. They got their butts kicked on the line of scrimmage. And if you're going to play like that, as much as Paul and I like to talk about the run game not mattering and the passing game being the more shiny thing of these two things, that's football in its simplest form. Is let's line up, let's run the ball 16 straight times right down your throat, and if you can't stop it, then we're gonna get out of here with a double-digit win, and that's exactly what happens.
Just the baseline of a functional football team are the things you're saying, and I think the point about the passing attack is true because that's what you need to be great. But if you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, it's not really about winning games. That's just about the difference between a 5, 6, 7 win team and a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's like the
team.
equivalent of the Belichick cliche, but we can't even get the quarterback to center exchange. If you can't just be adequate stopping the run, no one's suggesting you have to, like the Ravens, I think, came into the game last night allowing 55 yards a game on the ground. Like, you don't have to do that, but can you not allow 193, 192, and 171 yards rushing in 3 consecutive games? I think it's 165 per game since Bentley got hurt. those numbers are unacceptable. Like,
And-
you can't be that bad.
Yeah, and
against the
Bentley
run.
was the stalwart in stopping the run. Let's face it, but you can't be that bad. Even with him out, even with
You should be able to just scheme it up and stop the other team from running
Right.
at some point.
Yeah.
Not allowing 17 consecutive run plays.
Yeah.
I mean, their linebacker play is tough to watch. It's tough to watch, and I feel for guys like Jelani Tavai, because I think Jelani Tavai is a good football player. Solid football player. He's not in the Hall of Famer, but he's a solid player, and he's just swimming in it right now. And I assume that it's because Bentley's not next to him doing a lot of the dirty work that made Jelani Tavai good, but he's now more at the point of attack. He's getting attacked in coverage. He's getting attacked on the ground. He's missing tackles in the hole. Like, it's just it's difficult to watch.
And I would imagine offensive coordinators are looking at this defense right now and salivating, because football's a matchup game.
Yeah.
If you can scheme up the matchups, and right now there's a lot of matchups to be had with this Patriots defense, unfortunately. And these coordinators are smart, and they see what's going on. They see what's on tape, and they see where they can get the advantages on these matchups, and they're doing it.
And it felt like they've been one step ahead the last two games.
Yeah.
Like one step ahead with the big plays, with no one to stick with the run, when to get away from it. And there's no real feel of change in approach on either side of the ball right now. It feels like notwithstanding with the first couple drives where it looked good, but you felt like they scripted that stuff. And then once it gets into the territory of, all right, we have to adjust a little bit now. This is how they're going to start playing us. On both sides, there's nothing. There's nothing. What you see is what you get from that point on in the game.
Yeah, it started, I agree, with defense, because they couldn't, they had the one stop on the first drive, and then they couldn't really stop them again, and that allowed, I think that kind of served as a cool off for the Patriots offense. And I agree.
Yeah.
Mike and I talked a lot about the script, Ev. I don't know,
Yeah.
when you did the review, they had a good game plan in this game. I thought they had a good mix, intermediate, short stuff. The touchdown to Hasty was, I think great all around. I think they recognized the blitz was coming. Maye was on it, got it out quick. Hasty does a nice job in the open field of finding the end zone. Everything about it was really, really good. And then all of a sudden, the other team is possessing the ball, and you can't get it back, and you go 3 and out, 3 and out,
pressure.
3 and out.
Pressure builds.
And I think a 5 and out. I think they got one first down on a Keyshawn Boutte pass interference.
Yeah.
And that was it. They had really no first downs earned from the beginning of the second quarter to the middle of the fourth quarter. And that's a long time to have no offense. And during that time, the defense was powerless to stop Jacksonville.
And you had some stats about Jacksonville leading up to this game.
This is, this is
this
not
is-
just a run-of-the-mill
this is
bad.
scary.
This is not a run-of-the-mill bad defense they played on Sunday. This is the 32nd ranked, dead last, 32nd ranked pass defense. That's the fewest amount of points they've allowed in any game all year. 7 weeks into the season, 16 is the fewest amount of points they've allowed. Going into this game, the previous 4 games, they were allowing 35 a game.
Per game.
Per game, 35 per game. So not skewed by one bad game. 35 per game over a 4-week stretch. You got 16.
Yep.
And I actually don't have a huge problem with the offense. I don't, because I look at them, they're so limited with what they can do. They have a quarterback making his second career start. He wasn't great, but he wasn't the problem.
We got our guy.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
But
he wasn't, I didn't look at it and say, well, they would have put 35 on the board if they had a quarterback. I didn't look at it that way.
No.
I think the quarterback was the least of the issues.
They might have done a little better if they had some receivers. And
maybe a semblance of blocking in a running game, and everybody's all over Alex Van Pelt for running the ball. You were allowed to get a couple of yards when you run it.
Right. I mean, it's pathetic.
I think they ran the ball twice in the second half.
And there's so many different avenues we can go down here, but sticking on the offense for a second, what's going on with this receiver room? And I'm not talking about on the field.
I know what you're talking about.
But I think the off-the-field stuff is blending into on the field. Bourne basically called it out and, talking about eating and going out late and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, Booty found out that who found out that
Osborne
finds
AJ
out
Osborne,
11 o'clock at night that he's playing. Well, the reason he found out 11 o'clock at night that he's playing is probably because somebody was doing something bad that was supposed to play. And
that's a fair argument.
I mean, I'm only guessing, but there's stuff going on in that receiver. And then you got Jalen Polk, showing his ass several times, both on Twitter and who's the leader in that receiver room? Is it Kendrick Bourne? Because
it's supposed to be Bourne.
If it is, you have to step up.
Well,
you have to step up right now.
Yeah. I think he tried a little bit. He had some comments to the Boston Herald, to Ethan Callahan.
Okay, well, he
called a lot of these things out.
He does, but the comments need to be to his teammates.
Yeah.
And he's got to get some help from his head coach, and that's a whole nother issue with Jerod Mayo. Obviously, people are calling for his head right now.
Show off.
Calling for his head after 7 games, and I get it. What's going on in the field, particularly with the defense, is alarming. And you would look at a defensive-minded head coach for answers, and there are none coming. But with him, I'm more concerned with the messaging and what's going on. How is this locker room policing itself? Is it policing itself? Who are the people that should be policing it? Because it doesn't look like it is right now. It looks like right now things are kind of getting a little crazy with this off-the-field nonsense, and I'm not getting a lot of confidence from the head coach. That said, he's 7 games into his first year, and I'm sure, Bill Belichick, who feels so terrible, for the defense, I'm sure he wouldn't have liked it in his first stint at Cleveland, other head coaches calling him out, so he must really have it out for Jerod Mayo for him to do what he's doing, because that's not like him. He doesn't do that to guys that he likes.
That's unfair. Bill's hurt.
Yeah, no, he's really hurt.
Same
for the players
minus Christian Barmore, Jabril Peppers, and Jawan Bentley. But other than that, it's same
but,
players.
But whatever. What he's saying might be true, like in terms of they shouldn't be performing this bad, but all the other crap is just vindictive, petty stuff. And listen, I respect Bill. I'm grateful for everything he did. But again, he didn't do this in Cleveland, and I don't think he would have liked anyone calling him out in Cleveland. I don't think Tom Landry, when he was winless his first year in Dallas, or Chuck Noll had 1 win his first year in Pittsburgh, or Bill Walsh, who had 2 wins his first year in 49ers, would have liked any former coaches calling them out.
Research.
Whatever. He's Jerod Mayo's having a hard time. It's his first time ever being a head coach.
That's a lot there.
It's a lot to unpack.
That was great.
Not gonna lie.
I mean, I gotta agree with what you said about Bill. I felt it's kind of not a portrayal so much of Mayo, just of coaching in general, where I don't really feel like over these past 7 weeks you've heard him really criticize any coaches at all. And then he has to come on. Have you? Except the
ones he has an agenda against.
Right. It's specific to
the
ones that are doing great are the ones that are somehow connected to hhim, tied to him.
But specific to coaches?
Oh, God. He eviscerated the Falcons in week 1. Eviscerated them. Like, the point that you didn't block. You didn't think T.J. Watt was going to impact the game. How do you have him not? And he's destroying Kirk Cousins. Oh, what did Atlanta do? Oh, they hired someone else, not him. He's the epitome of a walking and talking contradiction. What's good for him isn't necessarily good for you. Do as I say. He is... Listen, he's the greatest coach in the history of the sport. He's a fraud. He's never, ever practiced what he preaches. Ever. And that's not new now that he's no longer the coach. These are things that bugged me, and you know this, Fred, because you used to argue with me about it.
Yeah.
Because he was ours, and I get it. He was ours, and we loved him. But it was always on his terms. What I say today, well, okay, that matters today. Can you imagine if a coach, for somebody that was out of work, walked in front of his team pregame on the field? That's a violation of the coaching code. That's the sanctity. But it's okay for him and Matt Patricia to walk right by Nick Sirianni, who was on the hottest of hot seats right now, because, who's rumored to possibly be in line to take over for Sirianni? Oh, we don't talk about those things, Fred.
Yeah.
We have too much respect.
He's completely.
We have too
yeah.
much respect for the coaching profession. He's a fraud.
He's self-serving.
He's a fraud. He's always been a fraud. Doesn't mean he's not a great coach,
Right.
but he's a fraud.
Sometimes to be great, you got to be a little weird.
The Illuminati
yeah.
will be after me
Yeah.
on that.
I'm glad you jumped in on
I'm
that,
just
Paul,
gonna
because
get
that
the
was what I
popcorn.
was
This
kind of
is
getting
just-
at, though. That was the direction I was heading. It's just, and it doesn't really, like, Jerod is struggling right now, and it felt like piling on to me from him. And look, I mean, I think Jerod's got to get out of his own way with some of these comments.
He
and
does.
And the soft
It's-
comment,
He
he had to
shouldn't
walk
have
it
said
back
it.
a little
He
bit.
shouldn't have said it.
You know, no
I'm not
question.
defending
He's learning
Jerod.
those parts of it too. But, you know, to Bill come out to be like, I feel for those guys.
Do you know what Bill once said in Cleveland about his own team?
Couldn't
They
run.
lost the game because they couldn't run the ball the length of my bleep. He
Yep.
said that in a press conference in Cleveland.
Yep.
So you think maybe you learn a little bit over the years?
Exactly. You don't think he learned from that experience in Cleveland? You don't think he was criticized by the way he behaved in Cleveland? Of course he did. Of course he did. And Jerod is learning as well. You know, people are upset because, you know, Robert Kraft anointed him the head coach, which he did before, you know, basically any interviews. That's all true. That's all true. But there's other things like, you know, I can't even get into it. But hypothetically, you know,
This doesn't sound like it's going to be
No,
hypothetical.
but, you know, everyone's coming up with all these scenarios about, you know, Jerod Mayo having these one-on-one meetings with Bill Belichick while defensive, you know, meetings were taking place.
With
And
Robert Kraft, you mean.
With Robert Kraft, I'm sorry. With
Yeah.
Robert Kraft, and he's late for the meeting because he's meeting with Robert Kraft or whatever. You know, hypothetically, let's just say that, you know, Bill told, I get my names mixed up. Let's just hypothetically say that Robert told Bill, hey, Jerod's going to be the next head coach. You can stay here as long as you want until you break the record, but he's going to be the next head coach. I'd appreciate it if you took him under your wing. And let's say at that point, hypothetically, Bill iced him out. You know? So now Jerod is like, here's my mentor. Here's the guy who they called me Little Bill because I learned at his knee about game, you know, evaluation and film watching and all this stuff. Man, I could have used a little help from him to prepare me for this job that I knew I was going to get, and instead I got iced out.
Yeah.
Well, what if that happened? What if that happened?
I'd believe
Would
it
that
100%.
explain why maybe Mayo might have been with Robert Kraft? I don't know, but like there's probably things that went on that we don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that sounds
Absolutely.
par for
Yeah.
the course for Bill. If he found out somebody didn't like that, he would easily have no problem talking to
But
a member
no,
of his staff.
I'll go back on that. If he finds out that, oh, you're making a decision for me, now all of a sudden someone he did like now is his enemy.
Mm-hmm.
That's how quickly he would shift.
I may or may not have some experience in that department.
You know,
Yeah.
it didn't have to be like this, and now it's a freaking mess.
And it's probably going to be, I mean, nothing's going to restrain Bill from continuing this. I mean, he's just, I mean, and honestly, like as a Patriots fan, I kind of felt like I felt the first year Brady was in Tampa, where I just kind of have to eat poo right now because he's there and he's doing well and you feel kind of, and now Bill is somewhere else and now he's just lobbing bombs at the
But
Patriots fans.
listen, if none of this happened and Bill got another job, I'd be rooting for him, just like I rooted for Tom Brady when he went to Tampa.
I believe that. I
and
believe that Fred's
I
telling
am
the truth.
grateful
in that.
for everything Tom did and everything Bill did. And if Bill went to another team, I would root for him to do well. But right now, no.
Yeah, and I would just say,
nope,
listen,
nope.
I don't want to separate these two things. I'm calling out Bill for being disingenuous. It's well within his rights to talk the way he's been talking. I mean, I just think that I'm seeing through it. This is all the stuff that Mike Lombardi has said for him for the last several years. Lombardi has been his Bobo mouthpiece. Now Bill is out of work, so he could just say it himself. And you can see all his agendas. You know, what are some of the greatest, or what are some of the best run organizations in football? Oh, Dallas. You see what they have? They have everything. Any coach that couldn't win, he left this part out. Any coach that can't win with all that talent that they've acquired there, he needs to go. Oh, you think so? You think?
Yeah.
Well,
And
like,
who needs to come in?
everything is an agenda for him. Again, he's well within his rights to say everything he said, and he didn't say anything that was necessarily wrong. Evan's right. He did conveniently. He does what he always does. He always operates on the margins. Same players, except for probably the best player, Christian Barmore. Right?
3 of the best players.
No, I mean, Barmore is like you can't stop the run, you can't control the line of scrimmage, and your best player on defense is a defensive tackle.
Right. I mean,
do you think maybe that's how
your entire
your ability?
middle of the defense is not there? That was there last year.
Yeah.
Like that's the only part of it that bothered me about what Bill said.
Well, I'll give you a couple other
it.
things that bothered me. They were number 1 in run defense. No, they weren't. They were 4th. They were number 1 in average yards allowed per carry, which is a different category. That's a different stat. Fine, okay, semantics. But again,
margins.
He operates in semantics. It's always on the margins. It's always, we were better than you really thought. And I'm gonna, like what was it? In the Super Bowl, was it? It's 49 yards. No, it's 48. Just because I'm gonna make the decision look a little bit better, to make myself look a little bit better. He's always done that, and he did that with the stats yesterday. He also leaves out conveniently, in my opinion. What was one of the common denominators that I ranted about all the time when people were talking about how good the defense was last year? That no one ever talked
the
about.
backup quarterback.
Do you think it's easier to stop the run when Saquon Barkley's the only thing the Giants have on offense that day? Because they're not going to let Tommy DeVito throw the ball all over the yard.
Right.
And they had that scenario about 7 times last year.
Yeah.
Where the other team was basically like Miami was 2 weeks ago. Now, again, I'm not defending Jerod Mayo's team. They couldn't stop the team with a backup quarterback.
Right.
They ran for 193 yards with a backup quarterback. Right? But let's stop the enshrinement of myself and let's call it all up. Let's put all of the facts on the table. Yes, you were able to stop the run when Tommy DeVito was at the helm, or when it was a driving rainstorm against the Chargers here, and the offenses couldn't do anything, or the last game of the season in a snowstorm. Yeah, you didn't allow any running yards.
That was they gave about 180 in that one. That was the only
Well,
one.
you know what I- you
No,
know
I know,
my
I know,
point
but that
is-
was like the cherry on top of that whole thing. was
Like,
the
if-
last game of the year, they did exactly what they just did
If you can't
last
stop
week.
the run in the scenarios that the Patriots faced, I would say 11 out of 17 games last year, then you really stink.
And a lot of this has to do with, I was so bad, but they signed all the players that I brought in.
Yep.
I know. Maybe they
Yep.
shouldn't have.
Yeah. But
Well, I've argued against that.
yeah. So, we're like Patriots Nation is in trouble right now. I mean, we're hurting. I get it.
People are taking shots. People are lining up to take shots.
As opposed to what your guy says, from 2 to 6, winning does matter to Patriots fans. Even in a rebuilding year, it does matter. How we perform on the field does matter.
Are you saying that it's more beneficial or more enjoyable to win the game than lose it?
I think so, Paul. I think I'm saying that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Keep
went
that
there.
in mind.
I think I'm saying that. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Fred, I want to go back to something you said earlier in your rant of just the passive-aggressive shots, salvos going back and forth between players in the media. And you mentioned Bourne. We had Godshaw a couple of weeks ago. We got a Quale now. These are things that are very disconcerting to me because it feels
This
like
is
the
stuff
locker room. There's
that I would say
riffs.
didn't happen a lot with Bill.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like the criticisms like this didn't happen when Belichick. That to me is accurate.
But
Bill buttoned that down.
But here's something, and yes, Bill set the culture, but his number one evangelist, his number one soldier that sold that culture, that reinforced, was Tom Brady. You didn't want to let Tom Brady down. He was a team player, so we need to be a team player. And I go back to what Dante Scarnecchia said. I forget who asked him. Maybe it might have been, I don't know who it was. Might have been at his induction ceremony. When did you know that you had a good team back in the early 2000s? Said when we became a self-policing locker room. And that means that the
guy wrote that.
That what?
Huh?
When I wrote my story about
Yeah,
Scarnecchia,
and that
he told
means
me.
that the head coach doesn't necessarily have to be that enforcer all the time because he's got the soldiers that do it for him. Bill and by the way, Belichick learned that from Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells said, "You have to have."
They all come to my way of thinking.
Bill Parcells said, "You have to have your circle the wagon guys.
Yeah.
When times are tough, when these are the guys, whether they're Pepper Johnson or whoever, that are going to enforce my rules."
And while not trying to just completely be over the top and defensive of Mayo and what's going on, especially the stuff that you're talking about off field, is unacceptable. But can we at least offer the facts? Some of those circle the wagon guys, the guys that Jerod wants to have circling the wagons are all the guys that got hurt, like Bentley,
the
Andrews,
captains.
Those are the guys,
captains. It's the captain's
and for a
curse.
different reason. Peppers, like those are the guys that like we're taking on water. We need help. Who's gonna help us?
Who's gonna step up?
Right now, the guys that are all playing prominent role, like why are these young guys talking so much? Because there's no one there.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no one there to police it. I do think I'm not telling you that's why everything is happening. That's why it's got. Don't confuse me saying they're 1-6 because of injuries. I think that some of the maturity problems in the locker room are due to the captains being injured. That's not the same thing as I think you'd be 1-6 regardless.
Yeah.
But some of the things that are happening off field, I think, wouldn't be as bad if they had the circle the wagon guys. And David Andrews, Jawan Bentley, Jabril Peppers, those were circle the wagon guys.
I was listening to Ty Law. He was on a podcast recently, and I don't remember which
promoting
podcast
vodka?
it was. But no, he was on podcast, and he was talking about how during scout team, him and Otis Smith started running gasser sprints on the side field, and back in 2000, whatever it was, 2001. And a lot of the other defensive players started to follow suit, but just like a couple of guys. Then, as it proceeded, Brady started running gassers with them. And then all of a sudden, 40 other dudes are running gassers.
I get goosebumps.
And I feel like there should be music playing in the background.
I don't want to put it on a 22-year-old. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair to put it on him.
No, he's not ready for that.
I think, but he's going to have to grow
Eventually
up fast.
he will.
This is a great point, though. Like back to like the circle of the wagon guys. Add into that, you brought in a veteran quarterback that you wanted to be a leader, which I think he did a really good job of. You can't do that as the backup quarterback.
No.
And then, to Evan's point, the 22-year-old can't do it.
He's
not
learning,
ready.
He's still learning how to play.
I think he wants to do it. I heard him with Andy yesterday on WEEI here locally. Andy asked him some questions about. I think that's something that's very much front of mind for Drake Maye, but he's not ready for that.
He's not ready.
You can't have the young quarterback getting ready to make his third career start isn't in a position to fix this.
Yeah. And by the way, whether it was Bill Parcells' teams or Bill Belichick's teams, crap happened off the field.
Oh, God.
Trust me. But it was handled off the field.
Oh.
It was handled.
Do you remember the fight that McGinnis and Malloy were involved in?
Sure.
With who was the receiver? Brisby? Someone I forget. It was at the town line, I think. They hit each other with a pool cue. There was all kinds of static happened early on in the Belichick era. They worked through it.
Yep.
And these were leaders that
Leaders
were involved in this
took
stuff.
control, and they handled it internally. You got 53 alphas. Things are going to happen. It's just inevitable on every team. It's how you deal with it that makes the difference.
I understand what you guys are saying, that he's not ready for it at 22 and as a rookie, but just based off of the performance on the film, he's their best player. Well, and he's the quarterback.
It's true. So let's draw the comparison to Brady, not in terms of ability, but why did Brady earn the respect of the players? It was in how he handled himself, the maniacal, preparation, and on the field during practice is when he earned their trust. And then he earned the right to start telling other people what to do.
And why?
Because he was good.
Because he won.
Because he won right away when he started
playing. You could have had all that other stuff.
No, you're right.
And if every game happened like his second career start when they got blasted down in Miami, if that was the first 4 or 5 games,
you're probably right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have been the same.
Winning is the ultimate disinfectant. Let's face it.
He went whatever it was. Was it 13-2?
Yeah.
I forget the numbers.
Yeah.
What were we?
And
they were 0-2 when he took over, right? So 11, 3 wins, 14 and whatever.
Yeah.
Math is hard. 14-3.
And that
I think he
was
as a starter.
That's the most discouraging thing about the loss on Sunday is, they started out so quickly, 10 10-0, and you're thinking, okay, this kid's going to get a win under his belt, and he's going to get it because he played well and they scored some points, and that's going to help him. And then instead they collapsed.
That's where you thought it was going.
Right.
Absolutely.
He just looked so comfortable to me. That was what was so remarkable. Like, just that kind of jump in week 2. Used to him, just having those plays. And I think there still were ones where, it felt like he drifted a little bit into pressure, all that kind of, like, the sprays occasionally. But there was just a level of calmness to him that, like, it just seemed to kind of really grow in him into that second game. And that, to me, was, regardless of the 10-point result and the plays, it was just his kind of demeanor out there. It's just like, this kid's really kind of growing into this spot. That, to me, was what was most exciting.
Someone asked us in pregame, what are you looking to see in his second start? And the only things that I cared about, it was how he looked. Like, does he look more settled in the pocket, especially early in the game? Because I thought at times against Houston, especially early, he looked nervous. He talked about being nervous, but I thought he looked a little bit nervous and unsettled and unsure. I didn't see any signs of any of that in this game. Now, again, played against a vastly inferior opponent in this game, but I don't care. He's making his second career start. I'm only evaluating him, not all the other stuff, and I thought he looked better in this game. The performance was roughly the same. I mean, through 3 quarters they didn't move the ball enough. And then in the fourth quarter, he gets something going again like he did against Houston. But I thought this was a much more settled. I agree with Mike. I just thought he looked in complete control in that first drive. Like, they didn't score because they were handing the ball off or because the other team completely screwed up. They were just like, regular Patriots play, NFL plays right down the field, 11 of them.
Yeah, and
right down the field.
11.
But it was it was pretty,
touchdown.
As the game progressed, it was evident that they weren't going to be able to run the ball. So that hurt. That hurt in the play calling, and I'm sure Van Pelt realized that, and Mayo realized that we just can't run the ball today, and he just couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought that just watching it back, to me, he played even better than he did against Houston, but it was more so what Paul's talking about, that so much of what he is doing is in structure. Like, it's within the framework of the offense. He's making throws on time from the pocket, and it's not all the playground stuff. It's not all him running around and just being an athlete and flashing these, off-script plays. If that's all it was the second thing, then I wouldn't be as impressed. But the fact that he's running the offense at the way that he's running it so far is, like, vastly ahead of where some of the comps that have been for him, like a Josh Allen or something like that.
And 2 games and 2 big plays. I mean, the pass the booty was right on the button.
Yeah, they have 7 explosives through 2 games. They had 6 through 5 before he got in there and started at quarterback. So he's been really just showing a lot of that in structure stuff that you see, coverage reads, blitz pressures, manipulating defenses with his eyes and pump fakes and look offs and things like that. Like, those are all nuanced things that he's doing at a really high level already out of the gate. I mean, the one criticism that I would just have of him is accuracy. Like, every game, both games, I would say he's got between the two probably 10 to 12 sprays where he's just flat out missing an open receiver.
And you do wonder that third down that led to the field goal on the second drive. He has Bourne there. Did get a little pressure, but, like, that might be an example. It was a little out in front of him. I thought Bourne could have had it, but it wasn't a great throw. Didn't really come out great either. It looked like it was kind of wobbly when it came out. But, if it's 14-0 instead of 10-0, you wonder if maybe that was enough to make Jacksonville stop. And there were a couple he threw to them that they didn't catch in this game.
So Jacoby Brissett caught.
It wasn't perfect. No, I mean the 2 that should have been picked off. And both were flat out drops on the interception, dropped interceptions. And I didn't really see those against Houston. Like, I thought he had the overthrow that was obvious, and they caught it. And then the deflection was an unbelievable play by the guy who caught, I forget who it was, 23, I think, for Houston, that caught the deflected interception. In this game, he was more fortunate that they didn't catch them. But I agree with Evan and Mike. I thought just watching it and looking at him, forget about the numbers or anything like that, just watching him operate the offense, this looked more conventional to me than Houston did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've ran one play in particular that he's now hit 3 different ways. He's hit 3 different reads within the same play over the last 2 weeks. Like, those are the types of things that young quarterbacks don't typically do. You either see, my initial read is getting open consistently, so I'm just making first read throws, or you're seeing playground, off script, running around like a chicken with a head cut off and making a play happen just because you're a superior athlete on the field. He's really seen the field very well. In the accuracy stuff to me is going to have to be worked out over time and probably in the off season. The throwing motion's still a little bit long. If they tighten that up, there's less movement in his throwing motion. That's less room for error there, and his feet can get a little bit sloppy at times still as well. But that type of stuff is going to have to be drilled into him.
Yep. So
that's the silver lining, because I think we all went into the season kind of knowing that the record probably wasn't going to be what we wanted, but can we get some development of Drake Maye? And I think at least you're getting the start of that.
It's incredible that he's been this good while all this chaos is going on around him. And that's why I said the 22-year-old, he's the one guy that's actually pulling his weight on in the team, and he's the youngest player on the roster.
Yeah. Just
it's absolutely crazy.
Just flips around. You spend all summer thinking the team is one thing, and then all of a sudden here we are, week 7, 8, and it's all on the kid somehow. I just want another piece, like someone else. Can someone else start to play well? Can someone else start to inspire some excitement other than Drake Maye? Because that's, to me, coming out of that game, we can all get excited about Drake Maye's first quarter. But what else do you feel good about right now? There's not a lot.
I think Henry's playing fine. Hunter Henry.
Henry's been solid.
Yeah.
They need some of these rookies to play. I mean, Jalen Polk is such a head scratcher to me. I can't figure. I've never seen someone look so in their own head, and then just to see it pick right up in the game again after we spent all week talking about it.
I've never seen anyone so in his own head, lacking so much humility.
Yeah.
How about I need to play better.
Yeah,
awareness,
self-awareness.
Yeah, I didn't. Looking back at the targets, drop is it's all subjective.
The second one is, if that was any other receiver, no one would call it a drop.
Yeah,
the throw was late, it was short, and it allowed the guy time to come over and break it up.
Yeah,
that was not a drop.
I agree. And just the other thing I would say about the defense, and I'm sure that Mayo would feel that it's execution-based errors. But if I was Jerod Mayo, and it's his team, so run it the way you want to, but if I was him, I would consider taking over the defense myself. I think at this point, you have to get one side of the ball buttoned up. You are a defensive-minded head coach. It's nothing against DeMarcus Covington, but he's also a very young coach that's doing this for the first time. And he's still going to be the defensive coordinator. And there are plenty of defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators who don't call the plays because their head coach calls the plays. So if I was Jerod Mayo, I would strongly consider taking over the defensive
I wonder
play
if
calling.
he's got the chops to do it.
Do you think it's a play calling issue?
It's not solely a play calling issue. It's obviously a combination of a bunch of different things. But I don't think the play calling is free of blame for what's going on.
At the very least, I would love for him, at certain parts of the game to be with the defense on the sideline and come off, and talk about.
I have to admit, I think that sometimes.
Some of the
Bill would turn around and be on a knee, and
when he felt he had to do it, he'd get in their faces and point out some things that he's seeing. And I think when it comes to in the game, that's the one place where Jerod could contribute.
Yeah, I just haven't loved it from the beginning that he was going to try to be a CEO head coach, because you have to have some self-awareness, right? Like Bill Belichick was a CEO head coach because he coached in the league for 50 years and he had a Rolodex of knowledge to go back on, to pull from, to contribute to an offensive meeting or contribute to a special teams meeting. Like Jerod Mayo's strength is on the defensive side of the ball. Same way as DeMeco Ryans in Houston is a defensive-minded coach. The same way as all the tight pant guys are offensive-minded head coaches and they're running their offense. Even Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo is running Kansas City's defense. Andy Reid has nothing to do with that defense.
No, but he he does the offense, though.
Right.
And to your point, Mayo's a defensive guy. There's nothing wrong with being a head coach with a slant on one side or the other, and he should be able to fix them.
I look at like Sean McVay when he started out with the Rams. Sean McVay hired Wade Phillips to run his defense. And he said to Wade Phillips, you are head coach defense. Like, I'm going to run the offense, I'm going to run the culture, and you're going to run the defense. And if I was Jerod, I would say I'm going to run the defense, I'm going to run the culture, and AVP is going to run the offense.
I think that's what he. Well,
except for he
minus
hasn't
the defense.
He hasn't done the defense.
But he hasn't done the defense.
That's why
right.
I mean, it sounds
that we know
nice.
of.
It sounds nice, but sometimes is that going to make a difference? Like, why should I believe that?
Oh, I don't know.
He has the ability to do it, you know.
No,
And
that's a great point,
Unfortunately,
Mike.
when you get to a point where a coach who, let's face it, he hasn't coached a football team before this year, and he doesn't have the fall back on. Well, I was an offensive coordinator for the last 6 years. I know what I'm doing there. Like, him jumping into the defensive coordinator role is every bit of an unknown as anybody else doing it, and that's. I don't know.
At least he helped run it with Steve last year.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of the things like on a day-to-day basis that a defensive coordinator would do in the past. I look at Jerod right now, and I feel like he's taking on water because he's stretched really, really thin. Like, he has a lot of responsibilities, and he has his hand in a lot of different buckets. And I don't look like he's not a white right now. Like, what are they good at, and what is he hanging his hat on?
Right, and unless all the stuff we heard about him being such a great, reviewer of film and classroom guy and student of Bill, unless that was all fantasy, you have to imagine he's seeing something out there that he would want to give input. Like, there's something that he's looking at that's like, here's what we're doing wrong, here's what we need to do, that he would have things to contribute on during the game. I would think he would.
Yeah, there's just so many things on defense at this point where guys are error repeating. And so I would think that with Mayo, like, he would be able to go in there to the defensive meeting or go out there literally in practice, like we used to see him standing at the linebacker level and like talking about things like run fits, talking about things like reading play action. They keep putting base defense on the field and teams keep on throwing 60-yard bombs against them when they're playing base. So like, why aren't we talking about what personnel we're putting out on the field? Like, these types of things are play calling. Like, these types of things are coaching during the week. And if he was more hands-on with the defense, like, maybe they would get the run fits figured out. Like, he played linebacker in the league for a decade.
And
like,
run
fits
is
like literally, that's his thing. Like,
Yeah.
that should be, Jerod Mayo's thing. So I just think he needs to be more hands-on with the defense.
All right.
Freddie, that was a big sigh.
We said a lot. We said a lot. 855-PASS-500 is the TPX hotline. Podcast at patriots.com is the email address. We're going to let people get into it because that's what we do. This one I don't understand. Eric writes in, this is what happens to the locker room when you don't re-sign any of your top draft picks for the past 5 to 10 years. Bill let everyone walk because he knew better and he could get the same production for less.
Such as?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Like, they just re-signed all of their
I know.
past
Well, I think
draft
that's what
picks.
they're trying to get in front of. I mean, a couple of years ago, maybe. I think what he's trying to say is that there's no core, there's no foundation from this team. They're trying to rebuild it this year by re-signing Doug Gurley.
I was going to say, that should be the core.
redoing that this year. That this is their first year of it. But I think what he's trying to say is what we have been saying, that they got to this point because they didn't have a core. They had to re-sign all those guys. It was either re-sign those guys or just go out in the NFL and get another guard.
Maybe this is what he is saying, but like, they got to this point because they didn't draft well.
Yeah.
Not because they let guys go. Who'd
Right.
they let go that you lament?
Right.
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
Right.
That was
Was
a
he
joke.
going to be a locker room guy? No.
I mean,
Isaiah Wynn.
Right.
Isaiah Wynn hasn't played a game in a long time, by the
No,
way.
really. Is he
in
still
Miami.
kicking around in
I
the
mean, you don't have to be an all-pro to be a locker room guy, but you have to be competent. You have to.
Right, and I think that they have
yeah.
a decent, like, and I made this argument throughout the summer, like, and I didn't like the idea of re-signing as many of their own free agents as they did. I, however, didn't necessarily have this, like, visceral reaction to any real individual guy that they signed. I just didn't think it was smart to sign them all. And I would have rather have brought in some higher-end talent in some spots. And I know they tried in with a couple of wide receivers and it didn't work out, but they should have, Duggar and that whole crew, can we talk about Mike Owenu a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, is there a chance that Mike Owenu got $19 million and is no longer really interested in blocking anybody?
Well, there's a chance.
I don't think that's what it is, but I don't think it's solely like you're not totally off.
I don't
base.
think
just
he's played
it's
very
the-
well. That's all I'll say.
and
Well,
he
I
has
think
even
he's
though,
also being used incorrectly.
Well,
but,
well, what? How so?
on right tackle.
Okay, so what about right guard? He wasn't playing well at guard either.
Played better.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
I think
Not
Moon-
according to the geeks. I'm just going by what the geeks tell me.
I saw him get out in front of that.
Someone
wrong play.
someone actually
Who was it?
someone tweeted this weekend that was the first sack that he's allowed as a tackle this year. Well, he's allowed a lot of sacks, so the rest of them must have come at guard, according to some.
Oh, I don't.
Okay.
I don't know about that stat
Thank you, Evan.
exactly. I also put that sack on Drake May, but that's besides the point.
But I'm just that's
yeah.
neither here nor there. He hasn't been good this year.
No, he
And
has.
he
hasn't.
was a good player. He was overweight when he came in. I just wonder if he got his contract and he's satisfied.
He's kind of been on my radar for a while, not because I think he's been terrible, but I
No.
just think he hasn't been an $18 million a year player. But
19.
the one thing I would say though, not necessarily even in his defense, but like him moving inside and outside week to week and having that be almost like a day-to-day proposition at
Not
this
great.
point is not okay. And if you ask me, that's got to be frustrating. Like that has to be frustrating for him that every week it's, well, now I'm playing right tackle. Well, now I'm playing guard. Now I'm playing tackle again. And some of it is because they need him to. Like he has to put out fires where they need them.
And I
to put out
personally don't
fires.
think he wants to play tackle, which I think is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Like mentally, I even wonder if that had something to do with his weight gain. Like, if I get big enough, I won't be an option out there.
I think the biggest, he's said in the past that he just wants to be at one position.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if it's tackle or if it's right guard, but he wants to be one position and stay there. So all this moving around, I think, is starting to affect him.
I think that's all fair. I think to the emailer's previous point, it's just that you paid him this money. You just would hope that he'd be one of your guys that you could look to when it's hard, no question. But how much respect do you have for a guy like Logan Mankins who went and played a left tackle spot, in a pinch and, stepped up and did well. And it's a lot for Onwenu for sure. But I just think they've had so much disappointment in these guys that they've extended, guys that they've given big contracts to. Go right down the list.
There's a laundry
It's
list of
hard.
examples like the one you just gave that happened over the 20 years. Now all of a sudden it's like I don't know how KJ Osborne made it through Sunday. Like, he didn't find out until the night before that he was playing in the game.
Right. Talk
Like,
to Tyquan Thornton
I get
about
it.
that, right?
That's not an ideal
Tyquan
situation.
Underwood, I mean.
Right? It's not an ideal situation. He probably didn't get, what do you say, you got like 3 reps all week. I get it. You didn't think you were going to play, and you played and you went out there and you did fine. You caught a touchdown at the end of the game. But like, these are things that are like really bothering players. Like,
Well, what did his agent tweet out? Something about
well, his
somebody
agent sent him
associated
something
with
and he posted it
Right.
on his Instagram.
Again, what are we doing?
Oh, my God.
This is my
In
point.
particular, in that wide receiver room, what are we doing?
I don't think that guy is like his actual agent, just worth putting out there.
Okay.
Like,
No, but
he reposted it.
I'm not saying the validity
I
is
think-
any different, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I
just
don't
tell
think
me
that
if
that
I
was the
might have
guy.
this wrong, because you guys know me in the social stuff. I often get it wrong. But didn't KJ himself post the? I don't care who the exchange was with.
He reposted it, which I just learned this morning.
Okay.
Apparently,
So
is
I did
is
as
different,
usual. I had it wrong.
Which
Okay.
I don't know how it's different. Like whether
It's
you're,
not different,
Yeah,
but I thought he posted. If he reposted it, we've heard this a million times.
Well, if somebody else posted it
retweeted,
and you shared it, that's
right.
all.
That means you.
Right. So you
You
approve
advocate
it.
it, yes.
I endorse this message.
Thank you.
Right.
I was just drawing the contrast with his assistant receivers coach, Tyquan Underwood, who famously wasn't he cut the night before the Super Bowl back in 2011? Like,
Yeah, now
that's
he's a
like
coach.
thing, like,
Oh, I don't know. Where do we start? All right. Let's get to some of the phone calls, and we got a million emails. Appreciate
I'm
it.
sure they're very positive.
Joe's in New Hampshire. What's up, Joe?
Hey guys, I just want to start off by saying that was an amazing first 50 minutes, and my questions are about some of the coach's decisions during the game. First, I know it was talked about on the postgame show, the 2-point conversion. I think it was absolutely idiotic to go for 2 when you're down 9. But a decision that I feel like hasn't been talked about as much is when at the end of the first half, when they had the 4th and 3, they tried to get them to jump off sides, but they burned the timeout, so they couldn't possibly get Jacksonville to go 3 and out and have a little bit of time to maybe get in field goal range. I'll take your thoughts off the air. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Yeah, those are Paul questions.
Situational football.
Well, I actually wanted to hear Evan because you
Matt, could you turn up the? Oh, he's not here.
Out of the three of us, you're absolutely more on the analytical bent. So I'm sure you're going to tell us why we're idiots that we don't think that you should go for 2 in that situation.
So going for 2 up 9, down 9, I should say, is definitely a nerd mountain. Like, this is something that the nerds.
So
like,
can I just ask?
We are right.
Can you please just give me one reason that doesn't involve knowing what you need?
Because you know what you need either way.
Because I know what I need no matter what happens.
By
making the 2-point conversion, by kicking the extra point for 1 point, and by missing the 2-point conversion. After all 3 of those scenarios, I know what I need.
Yeah.
Because the play has happened.
Right.
And the result is there.
I guess the idea behind it, and I'm not going to change any of your minds, but the idea behind
you can try, though.
Is that, let's say they kick the extra point and they go down 8 points.
Yeah.
Then with 2 minutes to go, Maye marches them on a 2-minute drill drive. They go down the field, and with 3 seconds left, he puts the ball into the end zone, and they're down 2 points.
Right.
Now they go for 2, they don't get it, blouses.
Okay.
So if they do it this way, right, then at least they can try to find onside kick, whatever the case may be, to manufacture another possession.
Okay, so why can't you onside kick after you failed 2-point
Because there's
conversion?
no more time left.
Well, now you set up a false. Yeah.
So there's 8:22 left.
Yeah.
Why, if I'm down 8, does my next score come with no time left?
But
if I'm down 9, I
There's
have
time left.
no problem getting
right.
2 scores
Right.
in 8:22.
Just for the record,
That's a dumb argument.
just for the record,
Not your argument, the analytic
I'm
argument.
actually on your side of the street on this
No,
one.
I appreciate
personally.
you taking the side of you're playing the part of it.
Right.
Yeah, I
like
just am
debate prep,
explaining
you know?
the nerdum, but like I agree with your side of the street. Now, the other rebuttal that the nerds would give, and this is the nerds and why spreadsheets are spreadsheets and games are games. If Jalen Polk doesn't slip and doesn't fall down on the 2-point conversion, then we're not having this conversation, right?
So no. I am very consistent. I'd still be having the conversation because I am not results oriented.
Well, everybody else is.
the analytics guys are all based on results. It's right here. You have a 58% chance to convert this, so that means it's the right thing to do. No, it doesn't mean. The result of the play does not make the decision right or wrong. The decision should be based on sound logic.
Right.
And I can absolutely be swayed on a lot of analytic arguments that I think the influx of the metrics have been a great addition to the game. I said this on Sunday in the postgame show.
Thanks, Paul.
I didn't credit you with any of this. I don't know why you're taking it now. No, the influx of guys going forward on 4th down in unconventional situations and spots on the field, I think has been a home run.
Yeah.
I've always liked that. I always loved the fact that Parcells was an aggressive guy on 4th down. I think it's added excitement to the game. I think to just assume you can't get an inch because you're on your own 30-yard line, I don't think is a good assumption. Now, there's time and score and all that kind of stuff goes into it, but I think there's a lot. I don't love this scenario, but I've sort of been swayed a little bit by the analytics. The down 14 in the 4th quarter when you score the first touchdown.
Go for 2.
Go for 2 and take a chance of trying to win it.
Yeah.
If you get the first one, you're probably going to get 1 out of the 2, but you take a chance and get the first one, and then you can kick an extra point to win it, which we've seen happen. I think the Jags did that to the Chargers in the playoffs a couple of years ago with that huge comeback. I don't love it.
Right.
But there's a basis of rationality to that decision. I'm within a score either way. I'm going to roll the dice and get greedy here.
And at least
I have momentum.
See, the difference to me, the whole difference between that one and the one that happened Sunday is you don't add a possession needed.
Right,
And
that's what I'm
this
saying.
one,
You're still within a possession.
Right,
I can
you
hear that.
added a possession here.
This one, you put it in a situation where if you fail on this play, like for some reason, the analytics guys tell you, well, if you're only down 8, then that 2-point conversion's do or die. If you miss it, you lose. I got news for you, people. The game ended on Sunday with 8:22 left when Jalen Polk fell down.
Yep.
The game was over. Now, I think the game was over before that anyway. There was no possible way they weren't going to win the game. But I think they made Jacksonville's job infinitely easier getting first downs and melting the clock when they made it a 9-point game instead of an 8-point game.
Because the Patriots needed 2 possessions.
They applied no game pressure to Jacksonville. None. They should have made Jacksonville pay for an idiotic decision by Doug Peterson to forego a field goal on the previous possession, the 11.5-minute possession that resulted in 0 points. They kick a field goal, they go up 3 scores. He just figured, we just ran the ball 17 plays in a row, and they can't stop us, so I'm not going to get stopped on this one. And son of a gun, they got stopped. And you allowed the Patriots to have what flicker of life they had, and the Patriots just gave that flicker right back to them by when that possession started, it was a 2-score game. When that possession ended, it was a 2-score game. Nothing changed.
I just want to be clear that I am not pro 2-point in this because I know I'm going to get lumped in with the nerds. So I wouldn't have gone for 2. But my bigger criticism of it was actually the play call. And I understand that
he was open.
I'll get to that later.
He was open, okay, but the odds of this team having Jalen Polk win on that route and actually freaking catch the ball.
Well, it's the player.
How many targets in a row has he gone without making a catch?
I don't know.
If we're going to go by the analytics, if we're going to go by the numbers and win probabilities and all this other nonsense that doesn't take anything into consideration other than the spreadsheet, what was the last time he was targeted that he caught the ball?
And he's ISO'd on that side of the field, so that's the only place that Drake May can throw the ball. So, like, when he falls down, it's not like he can now, I have another
by the
read.
way, guys were falling down in that game all over the place.
Yeah. And the
because
last thing
that was an issue.
I hated about it was you have this super athlete at quarterback, and you have him throw the ball from the pocket. Like, get him on the move.
I would even have taken his own read run, like the one against Philadelphia in the preseason, the easy touchdown.
Right, like
spread him out.
Yeah, incorporate his legs somehow, like run some sort of an option or something like that. Run
was
a
Pop
roll
Douglas
out.
Still sick at that point?
Oh, God, we can get to that, but I just Barth always says this, and it's the one thing I agree with him on.
Like that unnecessary shot at Alex.
The decision to go for it is only as good as the play call. So, like, if you don't have a great 2-point play, then the nerds are going to say on the spreadsheet to still go for it
because it's you're going to get it. You're going to get it,
and that's where analytics falls down.
But what I don't like is that, and I was listening to Andrew Callahan. We credited him. He got the Quale and Bourne stuff. So I'm going to take a shot at Andrew now a little bit. I heard him this morning. And, he's in this conversation, and they're going back and forth. Hardy and Wallach are anti-2-point conversion, and Andrew was for it. And, in the middle of the argument, Hardy just says, do you believe in momentum? And he says, no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can't have a conversation with you anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you think that every play has got the same exact chance of working just because of the play, you've never played sports. You've never been on a field. You've never been on a court.
All you had to do was watch.
You've never experienced it. Do you think the Atlanta Falcons had a sniff of a chance of stopping that last 2-point conversion in the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Right.
The analytics would tell you it was a 50-50 proposition.
I
It
was
could go
gonna-
either
I was
way.
gonna use the
That
same
was
example.
100-0. There's no way the Falcons were going to stop that after that avalanche had occurred.
Right. Momentum.
The only way that play was not going to work is if somebody on the Patriots failed to execute, a la Jalen Polk falling down. I think that last one went to Amendola, right?
Was that the shield screen or was that the direct
I think it was
snap?
the shield screen.
Yeah.
The only way that play was going to fail is if Amendola dropped the ball inexplicably. There's no way the Falcons were going to stop the Patriots from getting 2 yards.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sorry, momentum does matter.
Yeah.
And again, down 14, you get those. You can talk to me, and the analytics people can explain to me why it's advantageous. I have not heard anything that doesn't involve knowing what I need.
Yeah, not in this.
Down 9 with 8 minutes left.
Not in this scenario.
And then everybody, this is again not picking on you because this is what everybody is hitting us with. Everybody is saying this way when I get the touchdown, if I'm down 8, there's no time left after the 2-point conversion. I don't know why. Why does the 8:22 evaporate down 8, but it doesn't down 9?
Right.
I don't understand that.
Right. And also, put me in the position of taking that 2-point conversion after you just drove the length of the field. You're threatening. The other defense is on their heels. The game is on this play. You know, I believe in momentum, and I feel like, to your point, that was the point I was just about to make with the Patriots, as Evan said, like, in that situation, would you rather have it at 7? All right, guys, this is the game right here, 7 minutes. It's kind of a fart in the wind. You know, you don't really realize it at the time, whereas when you're going for 2 at the end of the game and you just drove the length of the field and here it is right there to win the game.
Pressure's on the defense.
I would also say, watch what your offense has done. From the second quarter all the way through that drive, you've done nothing. The biggest play on that drive was an unbelievable catch by Hunter Henry that converted a 3rd and long down the seam that they could have run 15 times in a row and it wouldn't have resulted in a completion. Like, read what happened on the drive and figure out how you got into the end zone. And now say to yourself, I could do that 2 more times.
Yeah.
Right. I can get that helmet top catch from Hunter Henry a couple more times so I can get scoring.
It was a better throw watching it.
It was
back.
An unbelievable catch, though, Evan.
The
guy was
catch.
right there.
But when I watched
the throw to Booty, that was an unbelievable.
When I watched it live, that was like a no-yes throw for sure.
In the situation, it was absolutely the right play.
But
You got to push the ball
back,
downfield.
like they're in Tampa too, so like the middle linebacker's back is to the quarterback, so he doesn't know the ball is coming. So as long as Drake Maye throws it up high enough that Hunter Henry can go up and get it, there's really no like risk of the defender making a play on the ball.
All right, one more call and we got to take a break. Christian's in L.A. What's up, Christian?
Hey, you guys. How you doing?
Hey.
So I just wanted to say that I actually enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed the game because I'm looking at it through the perspective of where we're going, and with what we have is all we have to work with. So we are who we are, right? Because we're working with the guys we have to play with. We got to mark them on the field, and we got to do our best. So with that perspective, I looked at the game, and I got some enjoyment, especially in the middle of the second drive. It felt like for a moment that we were a playoff team again. I know it's stupid, and I know it's just one of those things that as a fan, that feeling, right, came back. Like, wow, this is what I'm holding on for. And I just wanted to say that even though we're not running to where we're going or sprinting, maybe we're not even walking, maybe we're crawling to where we're going. With a first-year coach, a first-year quarterback, a couple of first-year receivers, a offensive line that's just trying to figure out what the hell offensive line is supposed to actually do for a living. I like the direction that we're going, and I'm going to look at these games from that perspective on, not from how perfect we can be or what mistakes we made, but just as a fan, a longtime fan.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this journey.
All right.
Taking it.
Okay, thanks,
step by
thanks,
step.
Christian. I mean, you're even more optimistic than I am right now.
I'm not sure I'm enjoying the
yeah,
journey.
I think there are guys in the UK fan club that aren't that optimistic.
Yeah,
They
no,
look
I mean,
like a playoff
listen, I hear
team.
what you're saying, but we need to see more. Even if you say we're crawling in the right direction, I need to see a little bit more.
The only thing that's going in the right direction right now is the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is
that's
going one way, and
by
Jake
the way,
is going the other way.
That's huge.
That's a huge
That's
thing.
huge.
And I would even say, like, how do you think he's played? Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Good.
They got blown out of both games.
No, I
Like,
know.
That's just illustrating. Like, you have a young quarterback who's
If he had started week one,
who's
like I
playing
said,
really
they would have
well.
won this game.
But
they wouldn't have won the game Sunday.
If he, yes,
Not that game.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like
the
you know,
whole
this
team
is-
would have been better, Paul.
This looks
I
like
think the
a
other
lot,
team could have put 50 on the board if it wanted to. They stopped throwing the ball. You realize that? Like, they played like a high school game.
Butterfly effect.
He threw for 200 yards on 20 attempts.
It
They
would've-
averaged 10 yards an attempt.
It would have been easy, and
Right?
it would have been easy to
I
drink,
wrong?
easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots, and of course, if you're prepping, whether you're prepping for this week's game day snacks.
193 yards on 20
I got to do
attempts.
the Bob's read, Paul. Whether you're prepping this week's game day snack spread or already getting ready to host Thanksgiving dinner, Bob's Discount Furniture can help. Your first move? Play the Bob's Dare to Compare Challenge and shop the party-ready Mango dining collection. After all, what's more winning than snagging the stylish Mango's high-quality, solid wood construction for hundreds less than the competition? See how much you can save when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Well, let me just start off real quick. So, obviously we're disappointed. 6 losses in a row, never a good thing. Last night, after the game, I felt like we just went out there and played soft. We're playing soft at the moment. And when I say playing soft, that means, stopping the run, being able to run the ball and being able to cover kicks, which we weren't able to do. Now, in saying that, look, do I think we have the guys in there that can turn this ship around? 100%. But, that comes through hard work on the practice field and going out there, just getting better each and every day. Fire away. Mike Reese. Or Bob, you're on the screen. You're on my screen.
Bob, you want to lead it or you want me to lead it? Okay.
You lead it, Mike.
Okay. Jerod, from day one with your coaches, you've talked about being demanding without being demeaning.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how much your core belief in that has been shaken just by the way that the team is playing and just what's happening around the team.
That's in my DNA. Once again, like a lot of these things are about relationships and treating people as human beings. So that's in my DNA. That doesn't mean like we're out there, coaching these guys soft. I think the coaches do a good job of coaching them hard. And obviously it would be easy if we were sitting here at 6-1 to continue to have that message. But at 1-6, I guess it's a natural question from you. Should we change up our coaching style? And right now, I just think that we need to continue to work hard and continue to push the players to get the results on the field.
And I had one question on a key point in the game, the second quarter. The second drive the Jaguars had in that quarter, the first two plays was a 3-yard run and then the 58-yard pass. That was a big play. It looked to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you stayed in base. The first down play, they had the 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
And then I think they switched to 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. But I think you stayed in base on the 58-yarder. And I'm just wondering if you were okay with that, not subbing there, if I have it right.
No, I am okay with that. And I would say you can play base to multiple personnel groups, 21, 12, 13. It doesn't matter. The same thing with our sub packages. Now, look, no matter what package is out there with a big play like that, it's down the field. So everyone else really doesn't matter up front. Bob.
Yeah, good morning,
Bob.
Jerod. Good morning. Thanks, Stacey.
Good morning.
I want to ask you, I guess, a question related to what Mike asked first regarding the messaging and the way you handled the team going back to the spring, even with the off-season conditioning, and then you go through OTAs in training camp. There's been such a significant turnover in terms of personnel, guys who weren't with you maybe in the spring or even through training camp. Are you concerned sometimes with the messaging is different, the way it's received with those guys because they haven't invested those hours with you and the staff out on the practice field, in the weight room, et cetera, to really fully buy in, I guess is what I'm asking.
No, it's a good question. Look, we're all continuing to get better, continuing to learn one another. I would say the messaging is the messaging. And, when you hear me say, we played soft, I mean, that's how I feel about it. And it would be easy for me to sit up here and go through injuries and all that stuff, but I mean, that would be pointless. To me, we have to be able to go out there and perform at a high level with the guys that we have.
And a follow-up regarding Drake and you and Elliot, when you met with us in the spring around draft time and talked about meeting him and the things you liked about him, the way he didn't throw teammates under the bus at North Carolina, his toughness, etc. Now he's been through 2 games and he's been in some adversity and he's played well for long stretches of those 2 games. What have you seen from him? What have you discovered that's new about Drake Maye, or maybe pleasantly surprising about your quarterback that you didn't really know when you drafted him?
Well, I would say it's just his overall toughness. Like, he's still out there. He's taking hits and getting back up and still stepping into the pocket. I think he's doing a good job. When you talk about progress from game 1 to game 2, no turnovers yesterday, which is headed in the right direction. He's definitely playing at a good level for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
We'll go back to Mike Reese. And I'll just ask, guys, raise your hand and turn your screen on if you have questions to ask. It's hard for me to see on this monitor without doing that.
Stacy, I already asked 2, and it looks like you got others lined up. So let me defer to the others for now, if that's okay.
Okay. So guys, go ahead, and if hand is raised, go ahead and ask. I'm disconnected on my end, so sorry about that.
Hey, Jerod, I just want to ask you real quick, what's the balance like for you, just obviously knowing the game and knowing what to do from your playing career, but realizing that guys aren't you and just having to work through that as a coach and how to adjust to that?
Look, that's a good question. What I would say is, these are professional football players in there. This isn't college. My messaging to them is like, this is a job. We play a game, but this is a job, and we all get evaluated on a day-to-day basis, and obviously on game day. And we just have to do better. And whether I don't really use that experience of me being a player. I try to coach everyone in their own unique style, but at the same time, we just got to perform better.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Jerod. I had a question about kind of the whys of some of the the things that you were talking about with the team. You saying they played soft, and also kind of some of the comments afterwards with Kendrick Bourne in particular about maybe guys weren't as engaged as they should be in off the field habits and things of that nature. Why do you feel that there's kind of what appears to be a disconnect between your overall messaging of we need to be a hard, tough football team, engaged, playing for each other, and what seems to be kind of developing on Sundays?
I didn't hear what Kendrick said, but what I will say, I'm not sure if he's talking about some of the off the field issues that have kind of creeped up here the last couple of weeks. Is that what he was talking about?
He was the guys staying up too late, maybe not having the best diet and off field preparation. Wasn't necessarily off the field other aspects.
Yeah, to me, that's part of being a professional. That's part of being a professional. This is your job. And your job's not only inside this building, but also outside this building. Taking care of your body and all that stuff, that's part of it. And that equals longevity in this league. For me, the messaging is we just need to get better. We have to do everything a little bit better. You look at the game yesterday, we started off fast. We talked about starting fast, and then obviously it was disappointing to end the half and really couldn't get things started in the second half. And that just comes through, continue to grind, continue to push through. So, look, you want to get to heaven, you got to go through hell sometimes, and it may feel that way right now, but hopefully we turn this around.
And just in terms of stopping...
Go ahead.
Just in terms of stopping the run, that obviously has been a glaring weakness the last 3 weeks. What do you see there? Is it the defensive line? Is it filling gaps? What's the rationale?
It's the front seven, and we just have to be more disciplined in building a wall and defeating blockers in front of us. It's not. It's easy. Look, it's not the X's and O's. We just have to be where we're supposed to be. Last week it was the big runs that really we talked about taking away those 3 big runs, and it's not a problem. We're not even having this conversation. Yesterday it was almost like death by 1,000 cuts, where it was 4 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, and that's tough. That's tough. And I would like to sit here and say, it's this guy, that guy. Like, I'm not going to do that. It's all of us up front.
Thank you.
Okay, next question, Taylor Kyles, followed by Karen Guregian. Taylor? All right, we'll go to Karen Guregian.
Good morning, Jerod.
Good morning, Karen.
When you hear of players speaking out, whether it was Kendrick Bourne or Daniel Aquali this week, Devon Godchow previous weeks, do you see that as a method of self-policing, or is it potential to create a divide in the room?
Yeah, I don't think it creates a divide in the room at all. I think just how I use, the media sometimes for messaging, I think some of the players do the same thing. I'm not going to tell them, say this, say that. No, like if that's how you feel, if you feel like you're the best player in the league, then go out and do it. If you feel like you want to challenge your brother beside you, I mean, go out and do it. Just, I think they use it as a tool, to get guys going.
Thanks.
Next question, Dakota Randall.
Jerod, I don't want to read too much into social media, but Jalen posted, then deleted a peace sign emoji on his Instagram story after the game. Some people interpreted that a certain way. I'm just wondering if you spoke to him about that or have any reason to question his commitment to the team after yesterday.
I have not spoken about that, and I don't question his devotion to the team at all.
We'll give Taylor Kyles another opportunity.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you for your time, Coach. When it comes to some of the penalties and discipline errors, it seems like a lot of them lately have come from veterans and sometimes captains. So I wonder, as a coach, is it more discouraging when it's your leaders committing some of those errors? And where's the fix when it is, again, the guys that you look to for leadership kind of committing those errors?
Yeah, no matter who it is, whether you're a rookie or a veteran player, like penalties are just unacceptable. And you see what happened yesterday. We jump off sides and then they go for 2 points. It's like we're giving these guys extra opportunities by shooting ourselves in the foot, and that's just not good football.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we'll finish where we started. Mike Reese.
Rod, it's sort of on the same lines as Dakota. KJ Osborne posted something on Instagram, like a text exchange with his agent, and his agent said we have to figure out this situation, or we'll work to figure out this situation. Well, I guess, what is the situation with him that's going on, I guess?
I'm not sure what the exact situation is. Look, he's probably frustrated because he's not playing as much as he wants to, and I understand that. If you think you should be out there on the field and not having those opportunities, you will get frustrated. It's a natural human reaction. I would hope that they would keep that stuff in house, and I have that open door policy. If he feels a certain type of way, he always has the ability to speak to me. But that's those guys' freedom of speech. Thank you, guys.
And now, great moments in history.
What's the top golf situation?
Tuesday night, 5.
You going to play Top Golf?
We're going to go with Hardy.
We got a thing.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's actually for Mike's brother-in-law.
It's for my brother-in-law who wanted nothing more in
life.
life.
Well, yeah, Pisha, he's out now.
He wanted nothing
they got
more
him a cameo.
In life. Yeah, he wanted nothing more than a cameo from Hardy for our family Secret Santa. I don't know.
I didn't see the video, but he told me the story.
Oh, and I have a video of my brother-in-law opening. So Hardy was like, well, why don't we just go to Top Golf? My brother-in-law golfs. And so I had the video, of course, of Hardy, but then I took a video of my brother-in-law opening it. And, like, you've never seen anyone more excited. And, like, when he heard, oh, Perillo's going to be there, too? Oh, let's go. I mean, he's from Southie. Like, he's total Boston guy. Yeah, he was so excited.
They love you, Paulie.
Yeah,
they love you.
No, not like Hardy. You should have seen it. It was like Brady gave him the cameo when he found out, Hardy, that's Hardy!
It's like a 13-year-old opening
yes.
like Taylor Swift tickets under the tree.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's another great moment from
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered. 855-PATS-500 is the TPX hotline. Podcasts at patriots.com is the email address. Once again, thank you for everyone who is calling in, emailing in. Hundreds of emails coming in. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get to all of them, but
why not?
Yeah. Well, let's take a phone call.
Okay.
Dennis is in East Boston. What's up, Dennis? Dennis. Oh, okay. Let's go to Alex in Augusta. Alex, what's up? Alex.
Good job, Hardy.
Wow. And
Oh,
finally, Eldred in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred? Beep, beep, beep.
Hey, fellas. How y'all doing today?
All right.
Okay, I just got a couple questions. About some practice squad players, okay? And I know they practice squad players for a reason. But since we lacking in receiving and whatever, anybody know anything about a John Giles, cornerback, Mike Battle, and DJ James?
That's cornerbacks.
And that linebacker, Mathis. Anybody know anything about them?
Nope.
Sean Mathis actually got elevated.
Yeah.
Oshawan, I think is how you say it. Has been
I thought it was
elevated.
O'Shawn. That's twice, by the way.
Yeah.
He was activated. But I have an opinion on everything. I have no
Not
opinion
those.
on those practice squad players. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, is
Giles
this what
was
it's come to,
on
Eldred?
and off.
We also get questions a lot about Caleb
Can't
Jones.
get nobody else.
I know. And believe me, they're not going to be any better.
If this is what the Patriots like 1s and 2s look like, imagine what their 3s and 4s and 5s on the practice squad look like. Let me just put it to you that way.
Yeah, it's. I know we're searching for anything, Eldred, but that's not where the answers are going to come.
Sometimes practice squad guys do rise up, like a good one is a corner we used to have back in the day. They came, practice squad. They got better and they kept playing, but
Craven LeBlanc, maybe. It was a fine player. Keep going.
Ooh. I mean, they've had guys that have come off the practice squad and contributed, as
Yeah.
extras or special teamers, but
they need top line
Christian
players.
Wilkerson.
There's no impact player that you're
No.
getting off the practice squad.
Thanks, Eldred. Appreciate the call.
Did you guys see Jalen Rager's play last night?
So Jalen Rager.
No, what did he do?
He caught the Chargers. He caught a bomb and then got peanut punched at the end of the run and fumbled on the goal line. And the other team recovered, but it was so Jalen Rager because he made a great play.
Is that how they lost with him throwing for all those yards?
That was part of the reason.
I didn't see a
Single
single play of that
touchdown.
game.
Didn't go out of the end zone. I just saw the highlight. It looked like it went out of the end
Watching,
zone.
so we watched most of the Arizona, or not the other game,
Yeah.
not the Tampa Bay Baltimore game.
Man, that offense looks.
But
nice.
I flipped over to the other game for the fourth quarter and watching Herbert. That's my biggest fear for Drake May is that he's gonna play out of his mind and he's gonna have these great games and no one's gonna be thinking that he's not the guy or anything like that.
It's a comp that he got a lot.
Yeah, but
coming
then
out of
the
college.
team is just not good enough around him, and he's throwing for 400 yards and stuff like that. That's already happening on a little scale, and now as he gets better, I'm worried that it's just going to keep happening.
Can I just use this opportunity? We're talking a little bit about the 2 Monday night games last night.
Is this a public service announcement?
Yeah, it's time for another mea culpa. And I know I've said this a couple of times during the course of the season, but I was pretty strong in my opinion that Derrick Henry was not a great fit for the Baltimore Ravens, as he's about to break Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So
on
I
this
just
one.
want
I
to
was
say
wrong,
once
too.
again, for the record, I was wrong yet again.
Well, you don't have feel for running backs, Paul.
Derrick Henry's impact on that offense has been absolutely immense.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that his style might not be a perfect fit, but what it's done is just it's forced the defenses to treat him so much differently than, what the Gus Edwards and the Justice Hills
J.K.
and
Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins, good players. But this guy is special. This guy's a Hall of Famer. Obviously, still has plenty left in the tank. And did you see? Did you watch? You didn't watch any of it?
I don't think I'm legally allowed to.
The 81-yard run last night.
Oh yeah, I did. See that.
You geeks, 21 miles an hour, down the sideline.
Yeah.
Just again, I couldn't have been more wrong. He's been awesome.
Yeah, I was wrong about that one too. But through 7 weeks, I think there's a real case that Lamar's the MVP again.
He was,
which is just
unbelievable.
5 touchdown passes. Last
Yeah,
night.
I mean,
he just made it look easy too.
And yet somehow you still look at Kansas City, and I'm like, well, good luck, Baltimore. But Baltimore, on paper now, is looking better and better and better. But somehow,
well, their
Mahomes just keeps
defense
doing
is a
it.
mess.
Yeah,
Baltimore's they got problems on that side of the ball.
Yeah, they can't.
And they lost Marlon
They're-
Humphrey
they're
last
doing
night
all
too.
sorts of nonsense on defense.
Sam from the North Shore writes in, discourse on social media from Patriots fans is ridiculous right now. Patriots Nation is expecting this collection of misfit toys to be greater than the sum of the parts, like the Brady Belichick years. Those days are gone. slap any other team's logo on this roster and say, yeah, that's a 3-win team. We're definitely the worst team in the AFC after that Jags loss, and probably the worst in the league. Fans need a reality check that the retool on the fly with Belichick and Mac failed. This is year one of a down-to-the-studs rebuild. We're looking at probably 3 to 4 seasons before we even sniff the playoffs again. P.S. Love the show, and shout out to Evan. I'm an Ithaca alum as well. Go Bombers.
Go Bombers. I agree with a lot of that email, not just because he went to Ithaca. I agree with a lot of that email, but there's a standard. There's a standard of competitiveness.
Yeah.
They have not.
I don't agree with any of these.
They haven't been in a competitive game
since week 2.
Yeah, I mean they were against Miami technically,
I guess.
But during this six-game losing streak, Miami's really the only one that's been overly competitive besides Seattle, I guess. But there's a standard. There's a bar of what's acceptable and what's not. No one was expecting them to win a bunch of games. We all picked them to win 5 games, 4 games, 3 games. But there's a level of standard, and I would also strongly disagree that it should take that long.
Yeah, that's the biggest part that I disagree with.
Yeah.
That means it failed.
Yeah.
If you're not a playoff team in the next 2 or 3 years, playoff caliber, then you failed.
Oh, yeah.
Because it shouldn't take that long in that league. That means Drake May didn't work, and you don't have a coach that worked.
2026, it's got to look a lot better. It's 2 full off seasons, 3 full off seasons.
But even if you use Evan's example that he just used of Justin Herbert, and you'd say okay, well, they're a playoff contender. I mean, they might not make the playoffs this year, but they're a playoff contender.
In the mix.
They're in the mix. If you can't get to that point in less than 3 years, then you failed.
Yep.
It shouldn't take 3 or 4 more years after this. So you're just at the standpoint where you can call yourself a playoff.
That was the
contender.
Mac Jones rebuild. This is the Drake May, and for better or worse, how it's going to go with him over the next 4 seasons plus.
Right. And the beginning part of the email that I disagreed with is, I understood that I thought if they didn't beat Seattle in week 2, there was a chance they were going to go to London winless. Okay, they obviously won a game that I didn't think they were going to win in Cincinnati. The record is not taking me by surprise at all.
Yeah.
But the manner in which they're playing these games and how sloppy they are and how many penalties they get and how undisciplined they are and all the squawking off the field that they do, I did not expect that.
No, I didn't expect any of that. It sounds stupid, but it's the difference between a 5 and 6 win team, and this is what a 1 or 2 win team looks like right now. This is how bad it is.
But again, it's not necessarily the record. It's how the record is being compiled. Last year, I thought the team stunk. They easily could have won 2, 3 more games.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have changed anything to me. I don't think they were very talented. But this is a mess right now. I didn't expect it to look. I didn't expect to give up almost 200 yards rushing, weekly.
It's the collapse of the defense.
I keep coming back to it with Mayo. What is his program? What is he standing for? And what's the vision here? Because it's one thing to lose games on the field, but every head coach has something to hang their hat on. Maybe he's a culture builder, which is kind of what we got sold on, I would say, the most. So build the culture. Well, the culture stinks. The culture is falling apart. Like Paul was saying, guys are squawking off the field. Things are happening off the field. So the culture is not good. So we can't say that that's what he's building. And then schematically, they're not good either. So he's not an X's and O's guy. He's not a Kyle Shanahan type that's, this wizard on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. So that's the part that's the most concerning is what is he bringing to the table right now? If he's not a culture builder or he's not an X's and O's guy, it's just nothing. And that's the standard that I'm talking about.
Let's see. Who is this? Brian. Says, hoping you'll read this. It was bad enough to lose the chat, but you've cut way back on email reads as well. Well, today's your lucky day.
Finger wag, Fred.
Number 1, time to end the poke joke. Thought he was getting benched heading into the game. Then he gets all those failed targets. Can we get him out of here? I'd even take a couple of Baker snaps at this point. He's had a long, naughty chair timeout.
Why did you think he was getting benched heading into the game?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Just because of performance, maybe? I don't know.
I didn't think he was going to get benched.
I didn't either.
And I didn't think he should have gotten benched.
Yeah, to
be honest with you.
If you listen to Jerod, he thinks that this guy's going to be good.
Yeah. Now, maybe, the fact that the off-field stuff is continuing, maybe at some point you have to think about that, because that's the only thing that really gets anyone's attention.
Yeah, I think a mental timeout would do him a lot of.
Yeah,
I don't have
favors.
mental problems.
Seems like
the whole product on the field is completely unacceptable. Fans deserve more. I'm a fanboy who was all signed up for a long, slow rebuild, but thought I'd get a competitive game once in a while. Remember, take him to the hill? Well, they died on that hill. Some flashes on O, but the D is broken. Something big needs
That's
to change. But where to start? Which league do you plug first?
It's a good line.
Oh,
I like
pretty
that
good.
line.
Let's do that one.
Where did Bourne say that we get tired on these long drives? Did he just say that today?
No, it says the Herald after the game.
Oh, did he? What's that all about?
I don't know. He said that we're not doing what we need to do. I'm paraphrasing. Taking care of ourselves off the field, getting in late, not eating right, and blah blah blah. So that's
I
why.
wonder who we could have been talking about.
Yeah, well,
So
I mean,
maybe the guy that was sick from.
I was making the joke to Paul
20
about
plays.
like when these teams like you listen all week and they're talking about like prep for we're ready, you know, Hayes the barn, like that kind of thing, and then like this isn't just the Patriots, this is a lot of teams, but then like they lose and within 5 minutes of losing they're just like we're not doing enough. Like did you realize that
Mike had
3
that
hours
rant this
ago? Like, or
morning.
does that just like occur to you in this last game and you're not doing it? Like, you know, and I guess there's no other response really other than we just got to go back.
But that's the part that's so disappointing to me is because like that's the type of stuff that I didn't think Jerod Mayo would stand for. Like I felt like that was what he was going to bring to the table: work ethic, culture, you know, locker room camaraderie, like all
stick together,
like all that kind of stuff. And they just aren't. Like they're just coming apart at the seam, and it just. I can understand that you're not a Bill Belichick football mind, that you aren't seeing the X's and O's at this like higher plane that no one else can possibly reach, but you got to bring something to the table.
Franklin in Baltimore says he disagrees with that email. Stop with the straw man argument that the Patriots fans expected instant gratification.
I agree.
Most fans knew this rebuild was going to result in a bunch of losses, but no one expected further dysfunction, inconsistent messaging, and a nobody jackwagon with stone hands saying he's the best in the league. Like, come on.
So I agree with that. I don't think there's been a lot of people that are like stunned that they're 1-6. Like, oh my God, we're like
they're getting blown out.
I mean, the over under was like 4.5.
Yeah.
For wins, the win total in Vegas, right? Like, I don't think there's a lot of people stunned that they're having a hard time winning games. They're stunned at the manner in which it's taking place.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people expected the amount of mistakes every week that are just being repeated that are not, they don't take talent. It's the Austin Hooper thing. I go back to Hooper in the preseason. Hooper drives the boat, Mike.
Right. And then I don't think you'd feel as bad about it as if you felt like the team was all kind of together at least. And, you know, and I know a lot of teams, they start to lose and it starts to come apart. But I mean, like I look at Godchon and Quale. I mean, to me, it almost feels like they're like talking to each other through the press, like somewhat.
I wonder.
Like, you know, Quale saying some guys have higher opinions than themselves, and you know, and you know, I
like that.
I mean, who else can have a higher opinion of himself on the defense than?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the only guy that has any kind of pedigree.
And I get it. Like, listen, I don't watch the All 22, and for once, I'm not making fun of you. I don't watch the All 22, and I know that he is very highly rated. Yes. Analytically, Devon Godchaux, right?
Not this
But I'm
week.
sorry, when you're in the middle of a defense that allows 200 yards rushing, I don't care how good you are. You're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Like something is happening that's allowing this to break down. You can't take your bows, even if you're doing your job every play. It's not the time to take a bow.
Yeah.
So I can understand it if you're right, Mike. And Aquali's kind of talking about his guy that's lined up next to him.
I'm just trying to read between the lines, but to me, it's like with these guys, it's like sometimes they make plays. It's like, you know, sometimes Daniel Quale plays okay, and then other times not so much.
There were a couple of plays. Anthony Jennings is like in the backfield making tackles.
I mean, he had some tackles for loss. Like,
I don't see him going out saying, "Well, I'm setting my edge."
It's just maddening, and you see they can do it at times. I would just say like one thing about change. Like I would explore options at middle linebacker out there, whatever's out there. I would consider it. I mean,
you mean to acquire something now?
I would just try to throw somebody in there for competent play.
But you can't give anything up.
No, I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying go out and trade. I would just look for answers. I would start turning over.
I would
rocks.
try to acquire as many draft picks as they can.
Because I mean, and I'm not saying that that's going to make a difference. I mean, this guy might be, you know, somebody who's almost out of the league. But I think that the level of play behind these guys, like the front, I feel like at times you see them make plays and you see them like I think you're capable of doing it at times. It's just never consistent. But
Mike,
with the second level, I don't see them.
Every team has players that at times makes a play that's out there. I mean, but
I'd say the linebackers right now are not capable of making plays.
You got to do it. To get off the field, you can't just do it one per drive.
100%.
I agree with Mike on this so much. With the linebacker play is deplorable. Like I don't even know what word to use. Like it is.
That's a good one.
It is.
It's what it looks like when a team doesn't have
awful.
Linebackers who make plays. I mean, that's usually the functional linebackers are to make the plays.
So we're just putting this down to, and I like Juwan Bentley, but we're just like you take one guy out and they just don't have NFL caliber play.
I actually think a lot of it, though, like in their defense. And again, I said at the beginning of the show, like I think Jelani Tavai is a good player. Like so, I think this is more about usage with Tavai than it is about his talent level. But it all feeds together, especially in a two-gapping system, where if the guys up front aren't eating those blocks and they're not doing their jobs on the line of scrimmage, now those blockers are getting up to the second level and they're getting on the linebackers, and now the linebackers are dealing with that.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of what I think. It's everybody.
It all feeds together into each other. But I just look at the linebackers right now, and it's when they do get met by block, like they can't get off blocks. And sometimes they're getting blocked by like tight ends. Like it's not even getting blocked by offensive linemen, and not to mention the issues that they have in coverage at that spot. But I don't think it's just Bentley. I think Barmore, clogging up space and taking on guys and defeating blocks is a big thing. I think Jabril Peppers coming downhill at the line of scrimmage and blowing up plays is a big deal. And not having those guys
but I was
there
just talking
is
specifically about the linebacker play that you
how
guys
about
have been very critical.
I mean, he wasn't great in his last year or two, but Lawrence Guy.
Yeah, it could be part of it too. Like I just Bentley, to me, if you want to look at specifically Bentley and the linebackers, it's almost like they got worse at two positions because Bentley comes off the field, so Tavai has to go to Bentley's spot, and then now Tavai's position is worse because Tavai's not playing his spot.
Mike and I talked about that in the pregame show like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. I just think Tavai, like to your
That'd
point,
have been the Jets game.
I think he is a good player, and I think there isn't a player on the roster right now that can allow him to go back to being that good player, and he's just going to have to fight through it and try to figure out how to operate inside, how to get through blocks. It's not his thing, and I think like the jumping offside stuff, like he talked about how angry he was all last week. Like it just feels like he is swimming in it right now. It's all on him. There's no one to really help him, and he feels like he can't really do it. And it's got to be really frustrating. It's frustrating to watch, and I feel for him because I do agree with Evan that he can play. But
I mean, let's face it. This is where you miss Bill Belichick the most. His ability with duct tape and baling wire was better than anyone's.
And that's Evan's point. Like you're supposed to be a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
You should be doing something to fix this. Because again, I don't think stopping the run is just about talent. Like this should not be happening. You should be able to scheme it up and say, "You're not running anymore. Do something else. I'm going to make you do something else." But you're not like if you're Anthony Jennings, could you come after this game and say, "Well, they didn't run anything wide. Everything was between the tackles."
Yeah,
they're running right at the gut, right at you. They're not disguising anything. They're not sending multiple guys, misdirection. It was just lining up and pounding the ball straight ahead, and they couldn't stop it. Like you should be able to scheme that and just say you're not doing it that way anymore.
Yeah, I just wonder, with the way that they've always been a two-gapping front. They've always been that way. But if you don't have the horses to two-gap, and they don't have guys that can take on those blocks and hold up those blocks or plug multiple gaps and things like that, like they got to be more aggressive. Like,
or maybe you change how you do it and you don't two-gap anymore.
Right, exactly. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, if you have, I think one thing that stands out to me with they're pretty small in the front seven now. Like Christian Ellis is playing a ton, and he's really not a thumper. Like he's not, a 250-pound linebacker. Some of these other guys like Jaquan Roy is played pretty well for considering where he came from and the fact that he's a practice squad guy. But they're like playing him some at nose tackle. Like he's not a nose tackle. He's not that big. He's not Godshaw size even, or even bigger than that. So like let some of those guys get up the field. Like they might miss sometimes, but at least they might make some plays in the backfield every once in a while.
I think this is the hard thing with. I mean, there's a number of things that are hard with moving on from Bill, but this defense was built a certain way, and it was kind of at Bill's disposal to use it, to deploy it as he saw fit from week to week. But ultimately, you never really had a defense that had a pure base.
No.
This is what we are. You know, a lot of teams, you just look at them. They're a 4-3 defense. Their 2 defensive ends are going to rush the pass. We've seen a couple of them over the last couple of weeks. That's who those defenses are. And so it's so hard to pass the baton on that kind of defense when really the skill of the defense was that they could kind of do what they wanted to it. Now you're trying to ask a new defensive coordinator to deploy what he wants, but with limited amounts of pieces, and there's nothing that they can go back to. It's not like, we've seen him try to go back to the 3-4 defense. That's what, when Bill's defenses would get run on and they were getting gashed, they'd go back to the 3-4, their base defense, their first install, this is how we stop the run, and they would stop the run, to Paul's point. That's what they would do. They don't have that. They have nothing to kind of lean on, and I wonder, as Elliot Wolf has to try to rebuild this defense next year,
right,
what do you rebuild to? Because there's not really a set formula of, we need this pass rushing defensive. Like, you really could say you need anything right now with this defense. You could take any kind of tackle would fit for Bill. He would use any of those things. So, and I look at the linebacker position too. Bentley, I really like Bentley. I wouldn't say I love him and think that he is one of those Ray Lewis type, game-changing inside linebackers, but what do you do with that position now? I mean, because you've seen what happens without him. You're going to need at least somebody waiting in the wings who has some size that can do what you want to do. But I think they might have to redefine what their defensive philosophy of the New England Patriots is next offseason.
But what is their, they don't have one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You got to redefine it. Right?
And maybe that used to, to your point, that used to work in the past where they could just go game plan to game plan. But I think the frustrating part to me with their defense now is that, you can't do that. So, can we find 2 things that you're good at and just keep doing those 2 things? If you're good at stopping the run in one front or one personnel grouping, or you're good at third down in one, type of coverage or whatever, just run it.
Yeah.
And at this point, I there's other defenses and there's other systems. You always go back to those Seattle teams. They ran the same coverage all game long. They never changed. They ran the same coverage, but they had great players running that defense, so they didn't need to be this amoeba, disguise heavy
week
defense.
to week game plan.
Yeah, they ran Mabel every single play. It was just the same thing.
Bill used to say that about the Giants. When he was with the Giants, Parcells would get on him because he always wanted to tinker, and then there were games they would just come out and play literally 95% of the time in base defense with two deep safeties.
11 great players.
Because they were so good.
Yeah,
they didn't have to do it.
Micah from South Dakota, how much effect do you think Demario Douglas being out in the middle of the game had on Drake Maye and the offense? I think it's pretty clear that Maye and Douglas have the best chemistry together, so it makes me wonder if Maye not having his guy on the field caused him to not play as well in the middle part of the field. Also, if we ever find a run game, then this offense could easily be a mid-level NFL offense, scoring 21 to 28 points a game.
I love how the bar is just let's get to 16th in the league.
Let's get mid-level.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Douglas being out, Drake Maye's numbers against man coverage tanked completely. Once Douglas was, out in and out of the lineup, he hit him on that third down very early on in the game against man-to-man, and they couldn't really make any plays other than the booty throw against man coverage. So it was definitely a big deal that they didn't have him in there, and I'm sure that he's really the one guy that against man-to-man, he can get open and he can separate and he can make plays.
They need another receiver to emerge. I mean, whether it's Bourne, whether it's Polk, whether it's one of those guys just has to step up and do something. They're not going to get by throwing just a Hunter Henry and Douglas in the middle of the field and the checkdowns to the back. It's not enough. You need an outside receiver to do something. I mean, you hope that Bourne is going to come on, but again, it takes a little time with these kind of injuries, and you probably are going to expect some ups and downs from him regardless.
The more players you have, obviously, the better. It doesn't help your offense that one of the guys that you probably went into the game plan, Douglas, being a part of, he's out in the middle of the game. But that's not why you go into the tank. It doesn't help. Certainly doesn't help. You need them. They don't have enough good players to be able to afford to lose a good player.
Yeah.
So,
could I go on one mini rant about the run game and all that though? I would like to take their play action playbook and fire it to the sun. I think it's awful. I don't think the routes make any sense whatsoever. I don't think that the scheme marries up. at all. They are running wide zone play action plays off of, straight drop back gap type of run concepts. Their route spacing on play action.
Their route spacing period to me makes me scratch my head a lot.
Yeah, their route spacing on play action, particularly on Sunday, was horrible. Like the very first play of the game, they run a play action drop and they have like a deep curl with a crosser that is going right into the curl.
spot.
And I'm just like, what are we doing?
Surprisingly, Drake had to scramble on that play.
Yeah, and so he's looking at it and he's trying to read to see curl to cross, and he's looking at it and he's like, where would you like me to go with this football right now? Then they ran the bootleg play where Hunter Henry and Jalen Polk nearly ran into each other, and the one that Polk dropped, right? And it just, none of it makes any sense. Like, this offense is absolutely begging for them to pull a guard and just run the tight end right behind the linebacker and throw it right behind his ear. Like, it just, I don't understand any of it. And it's like so surprising to me because Cleveland runs a lot of the same stuff really, really well. So I don't really understand how last year in Cleveland it looked great, and now this year they can't run it at all with the Patriots. But their play action concepts are just brutal.
Back to the TPX hotline. Sean's in Vancouver. What's up, Sean?
Hey, everyone. One play I'd like to see the Patriots move away from is running up the middle on first down. They tried it like 9 times early Sunday morning.
They did not.
No, you look at the games.
I did. I got the numbers. Their first down runs. They didn't have a ton of them, and in the second half they had none. I think they had one first down run the entire second half.
Up the middle.
But they didn't run the ball as much as you think they did. I was a little prepared for this because it was all Alex Van Pelt's fault that the offense didn't do anything. And I might sound a little defensive. I'm not trying to be defensive because I agree with a lot of the stuff that Evan said. I'm confused by their route patterns at times. I'm not an X's and O's guy. I don't break it down. But there's too many times that I just watch, and there's two receivers in the general vicinity of each other. That's something I complained about last year. It's something I complained about even more the year before that. Because it looked like they looked like they didn't have any spacing to the offense.
Yeah.
So I'm not telling you Alex Van Pelt doesn't deserve to have criticism. They didn't run the ball as much as people are blaming the self-destruction of the offense.
No, I think pretty much they realized we can't run.
They couldn't run, and they didn't really try.
They had one series in the second quarter where they went negative run, negative screen, third and long, punt.
Yeah.
But, in general, I don't think the play sequencing was the problem. It's just that what's happening is, the second level of every defense is flying downhill at the line of scrimmage when they're under center. They are not respecting any play action because the Patriots stink at it. So they just run right at the line of scrimmage. And until you start to script some play action plays that actually, get the defense to pay for that, then they're not going to be able to run the ball. The run game is all about numbers and physicality up front. It's not scheme is not really where you're going. When it comes to the run game, it's a numbers game. How many guys do we have on that side of the ball versus how many defenders do they have for us to block? And what's happening is that these teams are just funneling fast to the football, and they can't play action off of it. So that's why I brought up the play action stuff, because if they start hitting some play action plays, then you can't do that with your linebackers. They have to start respecting that.
So 5 of their first down runs came on the first 2 drives. What happened on those 2 drives?
They scored
points.
Yeah.
So, Evan's exactly right. They came out, on first down on their third possession. First play was a pass. Now they get a pass interference on it, so they get another first down. Now they run, they get -1. They pass twice after that. It's the blaming of the offensive lack of production on they just ran the ball too many times. I got in an argument with Big Head about this yesterday, Andy, because Andy makes Evan look like a hater of Drake Maye right now. He is so in love with Drake Maye, it's a little worrisome.
Andy tends to do that.
It's off-putting, to be honest with you, because he's so negative.
He'll have his jersey on.
But
soon.
He goes, well, maybe if they didn't bog down the offense all on their own. I'm like, what are you talking about? Bog down the offense. I went back and I looked and I highlighted all of the first down runs. They didn't run the ball at all in the second half. I think they ran twice in the entirety of the second half.
They had one possession in the third quarter because of that long drive.
That were passes.
They had in this game. They had -2 rushing yards before contact. -2. They were going backwards.
And that's why they ran the ball 12 times in
Yeah.
the game. Like, they didn't try to run into the brick wall. They had no success really doing it, and Van Pelt didn't try to stay with it. Like, it didn't work. But, like, you can't just throw the ball every single play. Right? Like,
oh, you can. But
well,
yeah.
not until the end.
Right.
Like, you're down 2 scores in the end, which
Yeah.
you're down 2 scores because you opted to be
Exactly.
in the fourth quarter. So you knew how you would be able to unfold, the last
Right.
8 minutes. But
it just
I
defies
get
logic.
a little annoyed with the whole they ran the ball too much. There's too many first down runs. Like, you have to run the ball sometimes when the game is still in the balance.
Yeah.
When they're up 10-0, like we need to just throw the ball every play.
Right.
They ran it once on that next drive. Once.
It
Sam's
just
in
defies
California.
logic
What's
the
up?
way they play that they can't play action. It drives me nuts. It's like everybody's stacking the box, everybody's firing guys at the line of scrimmage, and yet they can't get a linebacker to bite on play action and hit something behind them. Like I'm sorry, Sam. Go
What's
ahead.
up, Sam? Sam.
What's up?
Hello?
Yep.
Keep going.
Hey there. Big fan. I've been listening to you guys since 2013. Big fan of you guys. I have 2 questions, one about Jerod Mayo and then one about the 2-point conversion. Paul, I want to get into that with you.
Okay.
Nothing heated. I don't feel strongly one way or the other, but yeah. So for Jerod Mayo, I have a question for Evan. On that last interceptable pass that he was throwing at Hooper towards the end zone, is it fair to say that Hooper read that wrong and he should have actually stopped? Did Mayo make the right decision?
Yeah, that's the way I saw it, and I didn't count that as a turnover worthy play for Drake. The crosser to Osborne should have been a pick 6, and that one definitely counts. But the one to Hooper, Henry ran the same exact route earlier in the game and ran the route correctly for completion. The one that Hooper ran, I don't know how they're coaching it, but just based off of what you hear, that route, usually you want to settle someplace in that void of the zone instead of continuing on with the corner.
Okay, cool. Because I've heard people say he had like 2 interceptable passes, and I definitely agree on the one to Osborne, but I thought the second one was definitely not on him. I thought he made the right decision.
It may not have been on him, but it was an interceptable pass. It hit the guy in the hands.
No, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm just grading his play. Like, when he makes that decision, obviously, he's not expecting, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, totally fair.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because, like, we should be ecstatic. We just won the lottery, in my opinion, with Jerod Mayo. Like, you know what I mean? We got the 3rd quarterback, and it seems like
not just me.
We hit it off the park, It's like
You
if
didn't
you
hit
win
the
the lottery, you
lottery,
get $100 million, and someone says, yeah, but they're actually going to tax like $60 million. It's like, okay, so I get $40 million. It's still amazing. Like, what the heck? We're doing amazing stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, but what if you got $40 million and you're not allowed to spend it? But anyway, go ahead, Sam. What's your 2-point thing?
This guy.
Okay, so my thing with Paul is like, as long as we start with the basis of if you fail a 2-point conversion with 8 minutes left or you fail a 2-point conversion with 30 seconds left, you're probably not going to win. We both agree on that, right? So my second point is, like, Paul hits the argument, but if you have more information, like, obviously, like, when the Patriots got the ball back down 9, I believe there was like 4 minutes left, aren't they gonna be more aggressive and they're gonna try to score more quickly before the 2-minute warning? Versus if let's say they were down 8, they might take their time more, have a more methodical drive because they don't know if they're gonna want to score too early. You know what I mean? Because then they're gonna
They shouldn't be.
and they can just go and lose.
It shouldn't be. But the first thing that why should you have more urgency down one or the other? Like, you have to score. You either score or you lose.
My point, if you're in scoring range, right? Let's say like they cross the 50 with let's say like 2 minutes and 50 seconds left or something, right? So they're gonna want to take more time down.
Okay,
because-
can I stop you for a second, Sam? So, if you're down 9, why are you crossing the 50 with the ball with 2:50 left? But if you're down 8, you're scoring with no time left. That's the part that I don't get.
Because you're gonna have more urgency to want to score quicker because you know you need the onside kick. Whereas the other point, you're gonna because under both scenarios, right?
So you think
that
the idea of needing urgency so you get an onside kick outweighs only needing one score?
Right.
Like, I don't. That's the part I can't.
See, that's the problem. Can we all agree that whether you go for 2 or not, you have no idea how the rest of the game's going to unfold?
And can I just say, why, when you're down 9, do you know what you need, but when you're down 8, you don't know what you need? You don't have urgency.
You don't know if you're at 2-point, because we're in both hypotheticals, right? We agree that you're going to fail the 2-point conversion. Otherwise, there's no point in having this conversation, right? We agree you're going to fail both times.
No.
What?
Why am I agreeing to that?
Because the idea is, would you rather fail early or fail late?
I don't want to fail at all.
Exactly. But like, you can't have an argument.
But I'm just trying to play the percentages. I'm trying to extend the game.
Right.
I'm trying to make it a competitive game for as long as I can. That's why most coaches put off going for 2 as long as they can, because it extends the game.
If you're now under 8 minutes and you need 2 possessions, it
Game's
makes
over.
it so much easier for the other team.
The game's over. You read about like Alcoa presents fantastic finishes 30 years later on the one time the team that didn't have the ball with 8 minutes left, down 2 scores, won.
Who's that?
Those are like
Alcoa,
these
it's before your
these
time.
are these
Very
famous
much so.
these famous comebacks that happen, once or twice a decade.
Sam, we're going to agree to disagree on this one, Sam.
Yeah, thanks,
Again,
Sam.
Trust me.
Because
Evan's so
trust
resigned
me.
on
Listen,
this argument.
I'm not even. Listen, I'm not. This is not about Sam.
I wish he had a better argument.
Someone just give me. All I'm looking for is someone to give me a reason that doesn't involve knowing what I need. Doesn't involve when you're down 8, you're not getting a 2-point conversion until the final seconds and the game is over. I don't understand why that has to be. Why can't you score with 6 minutes left? And now I'm down 2.
Would you go for 2 then at that point?
Of course I would. I would try to tie the game. But if it misses, because as Sam said, I'm failing either way. So I miss with 6 minutes left. Now I have 6 minutes to make a stop and kick a field goal to win the game.
This is what
the same thing that they want to do down 9.
With time running out,
This is what annoys
with time
me.
running out, I'd rather have the scenario where I only need the ball back one more time to tie than to have the ball back 2 times.
Being down 9 doesn't ensure that you will have 2 possessions any more than being down 8 does.
Right.
But that's the way it's perceived. Somehow when you're down 8, you're just going to lollygag in and out of the huddle and wait all the time, run all the time off the clock because we want to score in the last second and get the 2-point conversion, send the game to overtime. Why can't you, with 8:22 left, force a 3 and out, get the ball back, score in 4 plays, miss the 2-point conversion, and still have 5 minutes left to get another 3 and out if you want?
Does not compute.
But if you're down 8,
See, this is where it
lose.
gets.
I love Evan. Like you have like
Because
you're like I have friends on the other side
of
this.
It's like the lure of the analytic.
It feels like he's letting down his brethren.
Right. I know people on that side.
This is where
we love you,
different.
Evan. Come
This
here.
is where it
Come to the
draws
light,
a
Evan.
line for me.
Come to the
because,
light.
Like the nerdum that I enjoy is not this.
Right.
I could honestly care less about your win probability model. I could care less. The nerdum that I like is like charting things and like data that is not predictive but is actual, like EPA, which is a stat that is tangible. Like the win probability stuff, I think has really done a lot more damage in a lot of ways than good because these nerds don't play sports. Okay, but the other stuff is different, and so I hate that I get put into the box.
Again, I'm here to listen if someone gives me a tangible reason why it's better.
Right.
To be down 9.
All right, two quick
could talk to
calls
Evan Ross.
because we're running out of time here. Patty and Agawam, quickly. Patty.
Gotta hurry.
Okay, he's not there. We'll do one more, and this is Dante and Orlando.
Oh no,
That's a weird.
That's a weird Orlando.
That's a weird
Well, they
busy
had a lot
signal.
of problem with the hurricane. So, all right, that's going to be it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. I do
good show.
apologize to all the hundreds of emailers. We didn't get to like that many of them, so we'll try to do better tomorrow.
We'll try to see if we can hose Freddie down. He was a little wound up the first 45 minutes today.
And we will be back tomorrow at noon. Playbook also tomorrow. We'll have more to talk about then. So thanks for listening today.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original